Oh, thank you. Sleepy. Come back in an hour. Need sleepy. Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay today. Special shout out to all of our viewers on Fight TV, and we appreciate you watching us, and we appreciate being with you this morning. And don't forget, if you want to watch this show on your handheld device, just go to fight.tv/Billy C. That's FITE.TV/Billy C. Download the app for free and watch this show on your handheld, or watch any of the other great combat sports that are available on Fight TV. Today's show was being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria, an Italian restaurant located in beautifully warm St. Simons Island, Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. And don't forget, mention the show and get a free cannoli with your meal. And don't forget, if you're heading south, it's literally 15 minutes out of your way off of I-95, and that includes stopping for a light or two. If you run the red lights, you'll get there quicker. Check it out. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the aforementioned Fight TV. Check it out, fight.tv/Billy C. That's FITE.TV/Billy C. Download the app today. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can literally get a copy of it right now by visiting BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why we got a 5-star rating across the board. And don't forget, it's not too late to give the people you care about a copy of my book for the holidays. Just order it right now on BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Hey, if you want a signed copy, just go to our website at www.BillyCBoxing.com and go to the book club section and follow the directions. Big news today, of course, and I apologize for not being able to do our Bernard Hopkins, Joe Smith Jr. post-fight show, which we were scheduled to do on Saturday night, but unfortunately, due to a snowstorm here in the North Country, I lost my internet and power, and pretty much I lost my mind. It was awful. But the bottom line is everything's good today, and except for Bernard Hopkins, that is. Congratulations to my man Coach, who pretty much called this one. Joe Smith knocks out Bernard Hopkins. Not only knocks him out, but knocks him through the ropes at 53 seconds of the 8th round to improve to 23 wins and a loss with 19 knockouts. B-Hop, well, he ended his career. He said this was his last fight, and I can't see any reason why he would continue. He looked old. He looked slow. He looked like he was feeling the effects of every single punch thrown at him from Joe Smith. I also got some other fights I want to talk about, plus the big news of Triple G, Daniel Jacobs, being officially official, which I won't believe that till I see Daniel Jacobs actually get in a ring with Triple G. And, of course, the Alexander Povetkin, Berman Stavern fiasco. But joining me right now, from much warmer than where I am, ladies and gentlemen, the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Famer, a New Jersey Boxing Hall of Famer, but the Guinness Book of World Record holder, my man Sal Rocky Senacola. What's up, Sal?
Good morning, Bill. How are you today, pal?
Better than B-Hop. What's your thoughts on the fight?
Oh, Bill, let me tell you something. You know, sentimental reasons, I wanted to see a great showing by Hopkins. And almost from the get-go, I was having to rationalize and try and make excuses. But I looked at it black and white, and it looked like he had some moments where there was glimpses of what he could do, but he never turned it around to really gain the momentum to get on a track of where I thought he was going to sustain a kind of strategy that was going to overcome the powerful young Joe Smith coming in relentlessly with bombs. And let me tell you, he throws every punch heavy, and he's heavy-handed. But Bernard Hopkins did hold his own on some of those rounds. I had to fight a lot closer than Harold Letterman, I'll tell you that. But I do see where Joe Smith, at the end, just relentlessly pounded him right through the ropes. There was no push, there was no shove. He got hit and fell and went right through the ropes. And it was sad to see him go out that way. And, you know, it's hard to understand what is going through his mind right now. After the kind of stellar career he had, can he truly walk away with this kind of loss forever etched in his mind as his last performance in the public's eye? Yes and no, and we could debate on that issue too, but for his reasoning, he said he's definitely done. But Joe Smith, young buck, coming up, he's got a lot to learn. He's got to learn how to cut off the ring. He's got to learn how to slip some punches and use that jab effectively and let punches fly off the jab and do combinations that are going to be effective and get in a set position defensively to take the recoil from that. But go ahead. What do you think, Bill? I'm dying to hear your thoughts.
Well, I thought that Bernard Hopkins couldn't get off on his punches. He was slow. He looked every bit of 52 years old. Joe Smith, no disrespect to him, but he's a very one-dimensional fighter. Just like my man Harold Letterman pointed out, he's a power puncher. That's it. And he needs to, well, I guess you can't teach an old dog new tricks at this point, but he does need to get up on his toes a little more and move around. Otherwise, he's against a younger fighter. He may not, be as successful as he was with B-Hop. But with that said, power is power is power, and the kid's got pop. And he was the first and only person to knock out Bernard Hopkins. I said this last week. This fight reminded me so much of A Piece of Steak, a short essay written by Jack London. Youth will always prevail, regardless of the talent level of the fighter, and Bernard Hopkins pushed the envelope. I will say this. Bernard Hopkins, and any people that have watched this show or listened to our show over the last almost 14 years now, will know that I wasn't always a fan of Bernard Hopkins. I really wasn't. I became a fan of his more recently because of the appreciation I have for B-Hop and him always challenging himself, and always going out for the toughest fights out there to prove that he's an elite fighter. And I'm going to say this right now, Sal, Rocky Senecola. Bernard Hopkins, in my book, whether this is his last fight or not, whether he goes out being knocked out through the ropes or not, whether he comes back and loses 5 more fights or not, he will finish higher in my all-time great pound-for-pound list than both Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. And the reason is because of what I just said. This is a guy that challenged himself, fought beyond his weight class many times, stayed in shape for his whole career. Listen, that's what great fighters do. They take challenges, they push themselves, they prove that they are better than what people think. And I believe that Bernard Hopkins, at the end of the day, has proved that and did every bit of it despite losing on Saturday night at 52 years old.
Well said, Bill. Well said. I mean, he built a legendary career. The guy is phenomenal. He was a true champion, and like you say, instead, he challenged himself. He never ducked anybody. He looked to fight the best out there. And, I mean, that's all you can want from a fighter. The guy definitely always rose to the occasion, except maybe the other night. But and that has Father Time on his side that was detrimental. Perhaps the glooming black helmet covered sheath. The Grim Reaper. I'm trying to draw the picture of the Grim Reaper that he came in the ring with.
No, Executioner. That was the Executioner.
Executioner, that's right. The Grim Reaper's one. The Executioner's another, yeah.
Yeah, nobody wants to touch the Grim Reaper. You touch him and it's over.
No, we don't want to touch that Grim Reaper. Let's get off that one. Forget about it.
Hey, let's just real quickly go through some other fight results so we can talk about some other major topics. In the cruiserweight division, Alexander Usyk improved to 11-0 with 10 knockouts when he stopped Fabrizio Mchunu in that fight at 153 of the ninth round. All I'm going to say about Usyk is, yes, he won, but this is a guy that plans on moving up in weight and fighting in the heavyweight division. I can't see it. If I'm Usyk, I would stay right where I am. He's got no chance in the heavyweight division with these big guys today, and he didn't really dazzle me with much in that fight. So if I'm Alexander Usyk, I stay right where I am at the cruiserweight division. But unfortunately, he's already said he's moving up to heavy. Mchunu drops to 17-3. Jojo Diaz improved to 23-0 with 13 knockouts when he beat the snot out of Horacio Garcia. Garcia drops to 30 wins and 2 losses with a draw. In a stacked card with Fight TV's own announcer there, the Hall of Famer, James Ross, I should say. We know him as JR, but Mr. Ross called the fights, and what a great card on I think it was CBS Sports Net. But in the main event, Ashton Palit improved to 22-2 with 18 knockouts when he scored a 10-round split decision over Oscar Cantu, which drops at 14-1 with a knockout. This was a great fight. If you didn't see it, try and punch it up. 98 must be the cold, Sal. I can't even talk today. 98-92, 96-94 on 2 of the cards for Palisade, and one judge had it 96-94 for Cantu. Alexander Povetkin knocked out Johan Duhaupas to improve to 31-1, but who gives a crap? This is a guy that's tested positive. I'm so disappointed. I'll get to that a little bit later. Stavern had they're calling him pulling out of the fight at the last minute, but this is a guy that's tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs a slew of times. I mean, at this point in time, forget about it. I don't even want to talk to him, talk about him as a contender. If he's going to be a cheater, there's no sense in even discussing that. Over in the light heavyweight division, Sullivan Barrera improved to 18-1 with 13 knockouts when he scored a 7th-round stoppage over V. Shababransky, who had previously been unbeaten. Shababransky drops to 17-1. In another great fight, Rashidi Ellis improved to 17-0 when he knocked out Eddie Gomez in the very first round. I don't know if you saw this one, Sal, but this guy just jumped all over and just destroyed Gomez in the first round. 79 seconds is all it took. Ellis improves to 17-0 with 12 knockouts. Gomez drops to 19-2 with 11 knockouts. Also on that card, in the super featherweight division, Ryan Martin, he improved to 17-0 with 10 knockouts when he stopped Yardley Suarez in the 4th round. It's time for Blue Chip Martin to start fighting a little better opposition. Yardley Suarez could arguably been one of the best fighters he's faced so far at 19-6. So come on, Blue Chip, step it up here. Saul Canelo's brother, Ramon Alvarez, improved to 24-5 with a couple of draws when he stopped Matthew Strode in the 4th round to improve to, like I said, 24-5-2. Strode drops to 25-4. Tim Tszyu, Kostaszew's son, made his pro debut this past weekend. He improved to 1-0. He's a middleweight. He fought a 1-2-1 guy, and the guy's now 1-3. Won a 6-round unanimous decision, 60-54 across the board. I don't know if you saw any photos of Tim Tszyu, but he looks just like Papa. There's no question about that. I wish him the best. He is a Australian Golden Gloves champion. He's 1-0 now as a pro. And just before we read a couple of emails. Sal, I wanted to get your thoughts real quick on Triple G, Daniel Jacobs, being signed, sealed, and delivered. According to many reports, this fight is scheduled to take place at Madison Square Garden in March 18th. I have no details of the money, but this fight is signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm excited about it. I wanted this fight because Triple G, his goal is to clean up the middleweight division, and I give Daniel Jacobs credit for stepping up and growing the hair on his balls to fight Triple G. I don't see this fight going to the final bell. As a matter of fact, I can't see this fight going 8 rounds. Triple G is going to destroy Daniel Jacobs. What's your thoughts?
I'd say 5 rounds, pal. 5 rounds. And I'll tell you what, maybe Daniel Jacobs will prove me wrong, but I don't see him lasting more than 5 rounds. And, yep, I'm glad this fight is finally going to happen, and Triple G will continue his reign if all things are on a level field here. And, yeah, it's good that it's going to happen, and we'll continue to have Triple G clean up that middleweight division and take on all comers at 160 pounds.
So let's talk real quick about this Berman Stavern and Alexander Povetkin issue. As we all know, and it's really hard to follow this, but the bottom line is this. Povetkin was supposed to fight Deontay Wilder. He tested positive for steroids. They somehow claimed that there was a mistake, and the WBC went as far as giving Povetkin another chance. They said he's got to fight Berman Stavern, and the winner of that fight goes on to fight Deontay Wilder. Now, the stipulation was if Povetkin tested positive or if Deontay Wilder's lawsuit against Povetkin, he wins it, the WBC was going to yank the opportunity from Povetkin away and move on. Now, with that said, Povetkin also had to join the WBC anti-doping thing that they got going on. And fast forward it to the other night, and lo and behold, he tested positive again. Therefore, the WBC decided to withdraw the sanction of this being an elimination fight. As a result, Berman Stavern said Bafangul and left. Said if he's not going to fight for the title, there's no sense in him fighting. And lo and behold, the promoter of Alexander Povetkin happened to have Johan Duhaupas all tested, ready to roll, and he stepped in within a 24-hour period, less than that, and fought. And the end result was Povetkin knocked him out. Now, after this fight, Don King, who's the promoter of Stavern, has feels that the WBC should give the interim belt that the two guys were fighting for, hand it over to Berman Stavern to give him another crack at Deontay Wilder. And he said, and I quote, "I've had a long-standing respect with the WBC, beginning with Jose Sulaiman, now with his son, who's done an incredible job filling in his father's shoes as the WBC president and just got reelected, blah, blah, blah." It's sad, but this guy, Povetkin, has become a total embarrassment. He's now tested positive in 2 WBC heavyweight title fights in a row. I'm all for winning and losing fights in the ring, but it's time for justice to prevail. I don't know what's going on over there with so many Russian athletes and so many sports testing positive for drugs, but it has to stop. They can't be allowed to continue to do things. What the WBC should do is declare Stavern the world champion, make him the mandatory for Deontay Wilder, and let's move on. He says there's a lot of heavyweight fights that can be made with willing boxers that don't break the rules. He says, I'm disappointed for Berman Stavern, who's now gone through 2 training camps with nothing to show for it. Why put up all that money for travel and expenses, then have no fight? He was ready to beat Povetkin and regain part of the title. And worse yet, they are trying to put the blame on him for not fighting, which is ludicrous. They're taking the victim and trying to set him up as the villain. What do you think about this, Sal? Do you think that the WBC should hand Berman Stavern the interim belt and force us to watch another fight between he and Deontay Wilder? I mean, no disrespect to Berman Stavern, and I agree with Don King in this particular case, but Berman Stavern has proved that he's nothing. This guy was a blown-up fraud, just like Deontay Wilder, in my opinion. His biggest wins in his career were 2 wins against Chris Arreola, and we know where. Well, he's a journeyman, if you will, and we know where that's gone.
Yes,
So what's your thoughts, man?
Well, we should have a fight of the phonies. No, I'm teasing. I'll tell you, I like where Don King was with this, and I like what the WBC's ruling on it. And you test positive. I mean, you're already out of the gate, and you have another chance. You blow that. You don't even ask me. But anyway,
I hear you.
And it's a tough call, Bill. Should he have stepped up and fought the guy anyway? No, he's not in a good win. If he's in a win-win situation, yes, he's not in a win-win situation. If he loses, he lost to a guy that tested positive with drugs and this and that. And I don't know if they should give him the interim belt or whatever it is to just say that he now gets the title fight against Wilder. And it's although you know what, if they do, let them two fight and clean it up, and the winner of that fight will get to fight a real heavyweight like Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I got some
It's
emails.
chaos.
Let's read a couple of emails here. This one's from my man Jesse. He says, Billy, what's the stance of Donald Trump on minimum wage? Should minimum wage increase to say $15 an hour? What's your stance on the issue? I'm not actually sure what Donald Trump's stance is. Are you, Sal?
I'll tell you what. I'll have to close my pizzeria if I have to pay $15 an hour for every body that comes through my door, including the servers, which make $2,000 a week or so with tips and stuff. I can't afford $15 an hour, and you know what? Not everybody's worth $15 an hour. If you have a minimum wage of $7.50, or which you do in Georgia, or $8 an hour, you know what? People that show they could do the job will do the job. For example, I had I don't want to say it. I'll make an example. I'm not going to say it has happened, but I had a situation where maybe a hostess who's been there for almost a year had to quickly turn while I'm making a pizza and say, how much do I charge for this and that? Well, guess what? If you didn't learn that in the first week that you are working in my restaurant, and you're up at the phone calculating prices and adding up tickets, and you're asking a question that's fundamentally rudimentary easy, that this was first something you should have learned in the first week, then guess what? You're not going to get a raise in my book, and you're not even going to last too much longer. I mean, it's a shame. It really is. It's really a shame.
Well,
I don't think $15 an hour should be a benchmark to start all these employees. I mean, you're gonna see a ripple effect across the board. You're gonna see small businesses having to close. You're gonna see either that or prices raising. I'll charge $100 for a pizza.
Right. So I guess you don't know what Donald Trump's take is on it. I'm not sure either. But,
I don't think so.
But I do.
I'm pretty sure no. Donald Trump, if he's as smart of a businessman as we all think he is and know he is, he's not going to go for that, because you know what? How could he understand from the foundation of where small business, which is the backbone and fundamental source of this country's driven dollars, how can he actually look to eliminate or hurt it and penalize it on that level to give people that aren't worth that $15 an hour a Bernie Sanders kind of gift? Get out of here! No way.
Well, what I think about that is, small business. This world has become so competitive in pricing, whatever you're selling, whether it be pizzas or widgets. To add a virtually doubling a minimum wage really does exactly what you just said, Sal. It either forces merchants to raise the price, which ultimately affects consumers, or it's just not going to work. I don't know. I mean,
no, I don't think Donald Trump took that stand. And you know what? I got to research before I really say. But the bottom line is this: the guy's trying to get the economy back on track. The guy's looking to stimulate the system here, and it's not going to be giving handouts to people that don't deserve it. You know what? If they deserve to be paid $15 an hour, they'll learn it up.
The next topic Jesse has is he says, have you been to a boxing convention like the one they had Sunday in the WBC in Miami. Yeah, it's sort of like a plumbers convention. It's all smoke and mirrors. But in boxing, that gives people a chance, promoters a chance to pay off the right guys to get their fighters in. It's a shim sham scam is what it is. He says, I read that Lipinets is in line mandatory for the Indongo fight, but Troyansky is seeking an immediate rematch. I believe Lipinets deserves and earned the Indongo fight because he destroyed Leo in an entertaining fight. They should have rematch clauses. If they have a rematch clause in their contract, end of story. If not, hey, you got to earn your way back into the shot. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, they should have rematch clauses. They definitely should, and on that level. They definitely should have that available.
Well, in a lot of cases they do, but the other side doesn't.
They do.
The other side doesn't own up to it. Sort of like Andre Ward, being the bitch he is. Anyway,
right,
my man Mike's. We got a couple of more quick ones here, Sal. Mike says, "Hey Billy C, I just got called a racist because I literally said the words, 'He's not a white American. He's from Kakistan, and two of his parents are one of a kind, or one kind of Asian looking, and the other a Russian or Ukrainian. So how's everybody pushing a bum like Triple G to be America's next great white hope?' I responded to somebody who said that Triple G was the next great white hope, and that any slick black fighter would beat him easily. This is what somebody said to him. He says Danny Jacobs is either going to box his ears off or knock him out and expose him for what he really is, an HBO fraud. Billy, do you remember when a guy named Dmitry Pryorg was beating him, outboxing him around the ring, and then knocked him out? Daniel Jacobs also hit the floor by a punch thrown by Sergio Mora. Getting dropped by the Latin Snake is like getting dropped by Paulie Malignaggi. Do you know why Pryorg had such success against Danny? Because at the time, Mr. Pryorg was a skilled fighter who had pretty fast feet and was awkward, but most importantly, his best asset was his ability to shift. He says, I can't think of any other boxer on the planet that shifts better than Triple G, and I don't think that fight is even going to happen. Do you really think it's going to happen, Billy C? Then there's Kovalev. What's the word when it's not really a robbery, but the wrong guy won somehow? And why didn't Max Kellerman remind SOG about the Darnell Boone dropping his ass on the mat? I can't believe no one else caught that. Andre Ward said after the fight that he'd been dropped for the first time in his career, which isn't the truth. Now he's talking about retiring, of course, and this is what boxing's become, Billy C. If this was even 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, there'd be an immediate rematch because the scoring was BS. I honestly can't believe you only had, I don't know what he says here, a level up 1 point. I had 8 rounds to 4, Kovalev's favor 4 times. Then I gave up and fixed my snowblower. He says, Danny Jacobs wants no part of Triple G, and why the hell does fighters that are worth so much money really, does Daniel Jacobs have
All
to
circuits
get
are busy. Please try your call again later. Announcement 8.
I love that shit when it happens. Thank you, Sal. But in any event, I you know what? I've lost my train of thought with this email, and I agree with you, Mike. I agree with you. Another email. This is from Raheem. He says, hey, Billy C., this is Raheem. What a great weekend of boxing. Hopkins showed that he's old, and he tried his best, but he fell short. I felt bad that he had to go out like that, but he's given our family great fights and great effort. For his age, he's still to be fighting is mind-blowing. He says, now that the fight I'm looking forward to is Triple G versus Jacobs. Triple G is finally stepping up to the plate against a true champion in Daniel Jacobs. Triple G was exposed by Brook, and Triple G now has to fight Daniel Jacobs, who has 32 wins and a loss with 29 big knockouts. Triple G is now fighting back to future Hall of Famers, and I know Triple G has to be nervous against Jacobs because Jacobs likes to rumble. I think Jacobs will knock out Triple G. That's my prediction. That's Raheem's prediction. That's not mine. Raheem, I enjoy getting your emails because they make me laugh. They make me laugh. Daniel Jacobs will not knock out Triple G. Triple G will knock the shit out of Daniel Jacobs. What's going to happen is Triple G is going to land one solid punch on Daniel Jacobs' glass jaw, and Daniel Jacobs is going to wake up and say, "What the fuck just hit me?" That's exactly what's going to happen. There is no way in hell that Daniel Jacobs can beat Triple G. He has never fought anyone of the caliber of Triple G, and if you're going to use Sergio Mora as an example of an experienced fighter that Daniel Jacobs has beaten, forget about it. Sergio Mora dropped Daniel Jacobs on his ass, and Sergio Mora, just like the previous email, is like Paulie Malignaggi knocking you out. He's got no pop. He's got no power. Daniel Jacobs may not even go through this fight. I agree with the previous email. My man Mike from Michigan, he may not even go through this fight. He'll find a way to get out of it. I guarantee it. If he does go through with the fight, it'll be a short night. Daniel Jacobs will not see the final bell. Daniel Jacobs has boxing ability, but he's going to try to jump all over Triple G, which is going to be a big mistake. I can't see him trying to outbox Triple G because Triple G will cut the ring off, and Daniel Jacobs won't know what to do. No, Daniel Jacobs is going to try to jump all over Triple G and catch him off guard, catch him while he's cold, and it's not going to work. Triple G knocks out Daniel Jacobs within 8 rounds. There's no question about it. Thanks for your email. Finally, we got one more. This one's from my man Brett. He says, hey, Billy C. had to laugh in the press conference before the fight when Hopkins told Smith that Smith was common and he was special. Well, Joe Smith Jr. had other ideas. At the end of the fight, it was Hopkins who had a special KO moment. At the end of the fight, it was Hopkins who had a special KO moment. I think it's reversed. I think he meant Joe Smith had this special moment. Anyway, he says the only other knockout I've seen like that in their last fight was Rocky Marciano knocked out my man Joe Louis out of the ring. Hopefully Hopkins will stay away now as Father Time has officially taken him out like he does with everyone else. As far as Joe Smith goes, I really like his come forward and throw with bad intention style and think he would be a good opponent for either Nathan Cleverly or Adonis Stevenson next. Both of those guys can bang as well, so it should be, on paper at least, a fan-friendly and entertaining fight. If he goes after Andre Ward, he gets his ears boxed off. And if he goes after Sergey Kovalev, he'll be lying on his back and looking at the ring lights. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about Kovalev knocking out Joe Smith because let's remember something. Kovalev has hit the canvas. He's been caught. And the one thing we got to give Joe Smith credit for is he's got some pop. I mean, this is a guy that's got some power. There's no question about that. So I'm not so sure about that. I like the Nathan Cleverly fight, and Adonis Stevenson, he's a bum. He's a pig. He's a chicken shit, chicken Stevenson. So I don't know. Maybe Jean Pascal, that would be a nice one for him. He says, I must admit I was shocked when I read that Triple G and Daniel Jacobs' fight is official and taking place in March. I didn't think that Jacobs would have the hair on his balls to actually fight, so props go to him. Triple G will knock out Jacobs in less than 5 rounds. Since Canelo won't fight him, this is the fight that makes the most sense for both men, especially Triple G, since he wants to clean up and dominate the division. Thanks for the email. I agree with that. I think that it is the best fight that makes the most sense to him. I think that Daniel Jacobs, despite my feelings of him, of me thinking that he's a fraud in a sense, I do believe that it is the best fight for Triple G. Triple G, Daniel Jacobs should be a decent matchup. And Sal, what do you think?
I think Triple G and Daniel Jacobs should provide some good, entertaining rounds early on. And then, but like I said, I think Triple G, I think his power and his ring savvy by the 5th or 6th round should probably put Daniel Jacobs down. But Jacobs will put up a fight, and I do give him a lot of credit for finally signing that contract. Yeah,
no, I do too. Hey, some news that took place late last week. Terrence Crawford got sentenced to jail 90 days. Now check this out.
I want to hear this.
Yeah, he gets now apparently what happened was he had he got arrested for disorderly conduct and doing some damage to property at a Omaha, Nebraska body shop this past April. And whatever the case was, he goes before the judge, and she sentences him to 90 days in jail, 120 hours of community service, and $6,000 in restitution. And, oh, by the way, he's subject to random alcohol and drug tests. Now, since then, and that was last week, but since then, his attorney has gotten him released because they're appealing the sentence. So he's actually out right now as we speak on a $10,000 bond. But here's my point, Sal. You know, Terrence Crawford, whatever, I don't know if he's got a record or whatever that would justify 90 days in jail for him losing his temper and busting up this guy's body shop, which incidentally seemed a little strange anyway with him not having his car ready. Whatever the story was, he busted up the place and got arrested for that and immediately goes to jail. Now, not that I want to compare, but I think I will. Floyd Mayweather was arrested, I don't know how many times, several times, or at least brought in several times for pretty much the same thing, beating up women, slapping his wife or girlfriend around in front of the kids, slapping around pimply-faced security guards, doing stuff like that, hiring somebody to bust up somebody else that was proven, and all of these things. And it culminated to him being served 60 days in jail, in which he served, or at least had to do 60 days in community jail, in which he served less than 30, and he gets a slap on the wrist. Terrence Crawford goes to try to get his own property back, loses his temper, busts up some property, and immediately gets sent to 90 days in jail? What the hell's wrong with this picture?
Well, we don't even have to say, but both situations, if you're breaking the law, you're wrong, and you deserve punishment. However, how the punishment is supposed to be carried out and why it's not equal or equally carried out on a level playing field to both people that disobey the law on some level. We know what we can only assume with the situation that Floyd Mayweather had versus the situation that Terrence Crawford was in.
Well, one of them is in Nevada, and one of them is in Nebraska. So what that tells me is that Nebraska doesn't give a crap about all the revenue that Terrence Crawford brings to Omaha. And Las Vegas decides, well, guess what? Floyd does bring in some revenue. I think it's BS, and
I think it's BS. Bottom line is BS. You break the law, you got to serve and do it.
Breaking the law. Anyway,
break the law.
There was another fight. There was another fight that had gotten canceled, and then it was rescheduled. Anyway, it was announced last week on Friday that the fight between Demetrius Andrade and Jack Colkay, who's the WBA junior middleweight champ, will be taking place sometime in March over in Germany. So that fight, I guess, is signed, sealed, and delivered. Thank God for Demetrius Andrade. This is a guy that seems to be passed by quite a bit in big opportunities. And I think a lot of it has to do with his dual promoters he's got signed. One being Joe DeGuardia from Star Boxing, and the other Artie Pilello from Banner Promotions. Both of these guys have done nothing for him, and he re-signed with them. So I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, let's just do some other scores real quick, and we could talk a little more about Bernard Hopkins. Sal, how about that?
Yeah, I would like that, because I still want to talk a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah.
And I do want to hear what you're going to say about my blue team from New York.
What, they won. Jersey. Big deal. They won. In the NFL, the Packers beat the Bears 30-27. Texans over the Jaguars 21-20. Jaguars fire their coach and then make him ride in the same plane on the way home with the rest of the team. That's pretty funny.
That's got to be a quiet scene.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's poor management. But anyway, the Buffalo Bills topped the Browns 33-13. A lot of people thought the winless Browns were going to upset the Bills, and they said that Rex Ryan's job would have been a history if that would have taken place. The Ravens beat the Eagles 27-26. Titans beat the Chiefs. I watched this game yesterday. What an exciting game. I love Mariota. I think he's good. And he beat the Chiefs 19-17. Chiefs are one of the top teams in the AFC. The Giants beat the Lions 17-6. The Colts beat the Vikings 34-6. The Steelers come from behind. At one point in this game, it was 17-3, and the Steelers beat the Bengals 24-20. The Saints beat the Cardinals in a shootout 48-41. The Falcons beat the snot out of the 49ers 41-13. The Patriots beat the Broncos 16-3. The Raiders in a thriller against the Chargers, another game I watched, 19-13. You got to love the Raiders. I'm pulling for the Raiders now that my team has been long out of it. And the Cowboys hold on to beat the Buccaneers 26-20. For you disgruntled and miserable Jet fans, they played Saturday, and the Dolphins spanked them 34-13. My man Bryce Petty looked okay, but now he's hurt, so it looks like he's a fragile guy, may never make it in the NFL. So who the hell knows about the Jets? Some other football news I just want to throw out there. In some bowl games, yes, it's bowl game season. As a matter of fact, there's another one on this afternoon. In the Air Force, listen to some of these bowl games now, Sal. Remember when we were kids, it was like, maybe 6 or 7 of them. Now,
right.
we got a ton of them. But this is the Air Force Reserve Celebration Bowl. Grambling beat...
Whoa.
You want me to say the name again? No, I guess you didn't hear me. It's Air Force Reserve Celebration Bowl. Yes, you heard me right. Grambling.
Well, my football team in Rivervale, New Jersey, was Rivervale Raiders. I think they deserve a bowl one day too.
They may get it, but Grambling beat the NC Central 10-9 in the Gildan New Mexican Bowl, or I should just say New Mexico Bowl. New Mexico beat the University of Texas San Antonio 23-20. That was actually a pretty good game. I got to watch that one. In the Las Vegas Bowl, San Diego State topped Houston 34-10. In the Raycom Media Camella Bowl, the Appalachian State topped Toledo 38-21. And in the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, Southern Mississippi beat University of Louisiana Lafayette 28-21. So that's what took place in some bowl games. But anyway, back to Bernard Hopkins, his loss to Joe Smith Jr. I just tell you what, Sal, he just looked old, he looked slow, and the right guy won the fight. He was trying. He's claimed that he hurt his ankle. He knew that he had 20 seconds to get back into the ring, but it looked like he had run out of gas prior to the stoppage. He just wasn't himself. I mean, he was 52 years old, but he just seemed, they were talking about how great a shape he was in, but he's starting to look like your body starts to look when you age. I mean, it's just you lose muscle. He clearly didn't have snap on his punches. He did land some shots, but they weren't hurting Joe Smith at all. I think it is going to be his last fight. I can't see him. Like you said, I know he doesn't want to end his career like this, but I can't see him getting into the ring without being in some danger. What do you think?
Well, and that's going to be the big thing they're going to look at. I mean, I made my comeback fight, Billy, at 53 years of age, and I didn't go against a Joe Smith Jr., but the bottom line is, I know that the medical community is going to look at him very, very close. And, and things happen when you get older. Your tendons, your ligaments, the tissue, your muscles may still be strong, but the connective tissue, the joints, they start to fracture or they start to stretch and bend and not bend, but rip and tear. But you know what? He could probably still get licensed. He could probably make a comeback. He could probably go out. But the big question is going to be why. The guy's proven he's a multi-world champion. The guy has done so much. The only thing he'd have to do is, it might be just a demon or a monkey on his back that he ended a beautiful career being knocked out of the ring. And maybe he can live with that. Maybe he can't. But the bottom line is he has nothing else to prove. The guy is a superstar. The guy's a Hall of Famer. The guy, future Hall of Famer. The guy's a legend. And I respect him, and I think he did boxing a good service. And it's just going to be how he feels. Can he live with it? I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I had demons. Everyone has demons.
Well, that what makes Bernard Hopkins great, and the reason why I feel that he's going to finish when all is said and done, at least on my all-time great list, higher than Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, is the fact that he's challenged himself and he's seeked out the toughest and most difficult fights / challenges, and I just don't think it's in Bernard Hopkins' makeup to go out there and just take on an easy fight just so he can end his career on a different note. So I think this is it for him, and I think that Joe Smith ended the fight convincingly. And Bernard Hopkins has always said, until I get my ass whooped, I'm still going to continue. And I can't believe that he would think that he did not get his ass whooped if he tries to use the ankle as an excuse. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think B-Hop knows that his time is over in the ring. Joining us right now, Sal, get his thoughts on this, is my man Dax Khan. What'd you think of the fight, man?
Well, as was already stated by you and by Sal, Bernard Hopkins, he's a 51-year-old man, just shy of 52. No excuse. It wasn't an excuse for the Kovalev fight, but also at that point in time, Bernard Hopkins was active. And Bernard Hopkins was then, I do believe, if I go back and look, was ranked in the top 5, pound for pound. He was a world champion. Since then, he had about 2 years off. Age in boxing, we know, is funny how somebody can age overnight, literally. So, he went in there against a young kid who was Joe Smith Jr. Nobody, they say he was only, I think, forget if it was Hopkins, said gained 6 pounds overnight, which Joe Smith Jr. had to be close to 200 pounds. Nobody's going to tell me different. Joe Smith Jr., he's strong. He came out there, and he pretty much just bullied Hopkins. Hopkins was never a big light heavyweight. He was never a hard-hitting middleweight. Had that with the age. He just, went in there one too many times. And that's what happens. He's not the first guy to ever do it, the first Hall of Famer, the first champion, the first legend, whatever word you want to use, and he's not going to be the last one. As far as the being knocked out of the ring, people are just getting a little overexcited about that. They're bringing it to a level it's not. They're comparing it to, and I believe I heard on the show today, the Marciano with Joe Louis, nothing close. Bernard Hopkins made the mistake he always does, and that's go back against the ropes. I kept thinking to myself, this is going to be a mistake. This kid is going to catch you. He did rock Hopkins in that first round. Hopkins got hit with that first punch, kind of ducked down, was trying to go to the side. Smith was too close. Hopkins had nowhere to go. He was down. He caught Hopkins to the last 2. Hopkins, went back and, got out. He wasn't out cold. He was up off the floor pretty quick. He wouldn't have been able to continue, even if he didn't go out of the ring. That KO would have came. But this was not something that sensational. And people, in my opinion, they're just getting a little bit overexcited. Great win for Joe Smith. He's a good boxing story, as I always say. A blue-collar guy making a better life for himself. He works a full-time construction job. That's what boxing's about, make a better life when you really have no other options. That's what the kid's doing. The things that I'm hearing out there, Joe Smith Jr. fighting this guy, he's coming up with the next one. I hear you talk about earlier on about, if Adonis Stevenson, that chicken shit. Let me tell you something. If a 51-year-old Bernard Hopkins, just shy of his 52nd birthday, was able to snap Joe Smith's head back with those single shots that he landed, the very few, if he was in there against an Adonis Stevenson, a guy who can move better than Hopkins, and a guy who has pop, I probably think he has more pop than a Joe Smith Jr., who doesn't even know how to throw a jab. Joe Smith Jr., he'd have been out. Joe Smith Jr. would have been out against Andre Ward, who would have bullied him. Andre Ward, the guy who knows how to be the bully. Joe Smith Jr., he definitely would have been out if he went in there against an Arthur Beterbiev. People are just getting a little overexcited. It was a good fight. Hard to see Bernard Hopkins go out like that. But I just really hate when people start going crazy and they start screaming things and they just don't like to hear the truth. This is a kid who, just remember, prior to the Hopkins and the Fonfara fight, his opponents had less than a 500 resume. This kid has spent his entire career down at the Paramount, much like a Chris Algieri when he fought Provokanov. He's got a couple good wins, started boxing. The company, the promoter, who knows how to ruin fighters' careers, are going to do what they did with him, get him another fight, get him a good payday. Joe Smith, take yourself Go into retirement. Maybe you can start your own construction company instead of working for a construction company, because what's going to happen is, like Chris Algieri, you're going to be put in there against somebody you shouldn't. You're going to hit the canvas 75 times. You're going to have your corner man, Joe Capablanco, who couldn't even compose himself, yelling how he's going to let you back out of the cage, and Star Boxing is going to sit there, and they're going to sell half of you over to Banner Boxing. And you know what, Joe? You're going to end up working back at a construction company just to pay back the money you owe them on your contract.
Huh. Interesting.
Wow.
I will say this, Sal. I will say this. Joe Smith Jr.'s mother was pretty attractive. I'm saying to myself, Jesus, that can't be his mother. That's got to be his sister. I mean, what did she have him when she was 10? I don't know. But, in all due respect, Joe Smith Jr. does have a lot to
All
learn.
circuits are busy. Please try your call again later. Announcement 8, switch
the heck is that?
1015-1.
I guess I just lost everybody. This is bizarre. What's going on with the phone system today? But in any event, that was totally bizarre. That was totally bizarre what just happened. But anyway, I do give credit to Joe Smith Jr. For winning against Bernard Hopkins. There's no question about that. I disagree. Unfortunately, I don't know what's going on with the phone system here, but we got. I can't seem to get anybody back on the line here. Wait a second. Do I got you guys back?
Yeah, you got me back.
You got Sal back.
It was weird. You played
got me
Sal
back.
before. Now we know it's not us.
No, I don't know what. No, well, Sal, I lost before, but this time
Yeah,
it was
you lost
weird.
Before, and you lost me again.
No, but
You
this
called
time,
back.
yeah, but both of you guys were on my screen as being live, and then all of a sudden we heard that message. That was bizarre. But anyway, I do believe that Joe Smith has a lot to learn. But let's be real. He beat Bernard Hopkins. He beat him well. And it's the end of that. I mean, people. I think Joe Smith Jr. deserves every accolade that he's getting. And to suggest that Adonis Stevenson, whether he can beat Joe Smith or not, and I'm not taking anything away from Adonis Stevenson's, abilities. The truth of the matter is he ducked the toughest opponent that he possibly could have faced. And for him to even still be relevant in the division is a joke, in my opinion. And I got to tell you this, Dax. I also got to tell you this. For you to say that Andre Ward would knock out Joe Smith, Andre Ward can't knock.
I said he would beat him. He would bully him around the ring.
He would beat him. He would outbox him. There's no question about that.
He would bully him around the ring.
But
my whole point, and we don't need to get into Adonis and what he does.
We don't need to get into that. We don't need to get into a lot of it. We don't need to get into a lot of it, to be honest with you. I'm not going to argue with you today, Dax. I'm not. But in any event, what were your final thoughts on that, though, Sal?
I think Joe Smith has a great opportunity in front of him. I think he should definitely pursue and grab the golden ring and align himself maybe with another training camp, a couple of different trainers. He's got the foundation. He's got a strong foundation. The guy can punch. You give any puncher a chance in a ring, and he can do damage, and he can make some noise through any ranks as a light heavyweight. And you know what? This kid could get a belt one day, just on his power. If somebody could teach him and show him and teach an old dog, a new trick, how to jab and use the jab to open up the combinations, to let the punches flow, and to recognize opportunities, maybe to do some feinting, and maybe learn how to cut the ring off on somebody and slip those punches, move that head a little bit. If you continue your style, you're a puncher. We're not going to turn you into a tiptoe boxer, but we're going to make sure this kid knows how to utilize his jab, how he can feint, how he can fake, how he can go to the body, how he can slip a punch, how he can come and counter. This kid's got the tools. And you know what? This is the kind of guy I would train, and I would love the opportunity to see him become a completed fighter. And he could do it. And this kid's got some good tools. And you know what? Don't take it away from him. He's got a pathway to make some big paydays. And you know what? I wish him the very best. I just hope he is open to improvement, and somebody that can understand what he needs can teach this kid how to do some better things.
You know, I really wanted to get Dax's thoughts on the Povetkin situation and the Triple G Daniel Jacobs fight. I don't know what the deal is with if Joe Smith slid his tires or something. I don't know, but I agree. I agree with you. The thing is this: I believe that Joe Smith Jr. needs to get the credit for beating Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah,
now granted, you could say,
Hopkins.
but you could say Bernard was 52. He clearly wasn't the same fighter that he always was, and all of this stuff. I agree, and I agree with all of that. You know, but at the end of the day, and I agree with you saying that Joe Smith Jr. Has to learn how to cut the ring off and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, he beat
Bernard Hopkins.
He beat a future Hall of Famer. And now Joe Smith. And another thing I agree with Daxon. You know, if Joe Smith should, I don't know what he made for this fight, but I'm sure he made pretty decent payday. You know, and I don't disagree.
At least an annual salary.
Well, I don't disagree with Dax, him saying that Joe Smith should, start his own construction company. I mean, I wouldn't, I wouldn't blame him for that. But the bottom line is he beat B-Hop. B-Hop clearly wasn't the same B-Hop that we saw last time, but that's not Joe Smith's problem. Joe Smith did what he had to do. As far as Joe Smith matching up with other light heavyweights, top light heavyweights, I do agree that Andre Ward could outbox him. I think anybody that has boxing ability that can stay away from the power of Joe Smith, and like you said, his inability to cut the ring off to inflict his power on someone will give him trouble. You know, I also don't think that a guy like Andre Ward would chance it against him now that he's got Kovalev's thing. And as far as Adonis Stevenson, I've lost all respect for Adonis Stevenson. I don't care how good anybody thinks he is. The guy backed out and refused to fight the only fight that made sense. And since then, he's fought relatively unknown people that are not relevant to the division. So I can't even put him in the same breath as Joe Smith at this point. Not ability-wise, just earn-wise, you know, and that's where I'm thinking on that one, Sal.
Yes, I agree, and he makes some good points. And like I said, this kid definitely, I think he's got some big fights ahead of him. And if he can rise to the occasion like he did his last two fights, let's give him credit for that. Then let's see. But he does need to do some simple drills, and he's got to get a teacher that can show this kid how to make it flow, where he can rehearse it, where he can do it, and he can own it. And if he can learn some things to get him to do what he can do to be a well-rounded fighter and a puncher, then this kid's going to be around for a little while. He's going to grab a title or two.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
If he could do what I said, he's got to learn a little bit. He's got to make that jab effective. He's got to make those punches and combinations, and he's got to be precise, and he's got to be able to slip and roll and move a little bit. And he's got to cut the damn ring off. That's these some of the things. And, he can be a very dangerous fighter.
Well, on Friday, Sullivan Barrera fought V. Shabaransky and won in a entertaining fight. I would like to see Sullivan Barrera fight Joe Smith Jr. next. I think that fight makes more sense. You know, Joe Smith...
that'd be a good fight.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Bernard Hopkins chose Joe Smith Jr. because of his big win over Fonfara. But the truth of the matter is Joe Smith Jr.'s biggest win of his career was against Andres Fonfara. And Fonfara, in my opinion, isn't exactly a world beater fighter to begin with. So he beat him. He followed that up with B-Hop. He's not a world champion. So technically, he's still developing. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think he needs to work on a couple of things. I think he does need to know how to throw a jab and, most importantly, know how to cut the ring off. Maybe go for a guy like Sullivan Barrera and see how he does against him. And then earn his shot. Let him get better. That's pretty much what I think he should do. But as far as Bernard Hopkins, I think that it should be over. Bernard Hopkins should stay on the other side of the ring. What do you think?
I think so. He made some comments about he would like to get into commentating and things. Like I said, he can close this chapter as far as being an active fighter. He's done everything. He's climbed the mountain. He's been on King of the Mountain, and he's climbed back down it. So, he should be very comfortable knowing that he's been there and he's done that. And he is really his own man. I mean, this guy did it, and this guy did it his way. And I give him a lot of credit. He rose to the occasion, never turned anybody away, and always tried to better himself by fighting the best he can get in the ring with. So now, you know what? Let's lay the cards out on the table for him. Let's see what opportunities can prevail for him. Let's see him do some commentary. Let's see him do some boxing, become a boxing analyst or something. Let's see what he could do. Maybe he wants to go into promoting. Maybe he wants to go into managing or training one day. Who knows? But I think if he said he wanted to do some commentary or do some work, you know what? Let's see him develop that skill too. Because, like I said, the guy has done everything. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. And why jeopardize his health at 52 years of age or 51 years of age? Your skull can only take so much punishment, and that brain inside is very delicate, and anything can happen at any given night. And you know what? Why risk it at this stage? Enjoy life.
Obviously, you're not up on B-Hop. Because B-Hop's already a promoter. He co-promotes with.
No, I know that.
And Sal, I can't believe you said maybe he should get into commentating. That he is the worst. He's knowledgeable, but in order to do commentating, I hate to say it, but as a ringside analyst, as someone who you're bringing in as an expert, you have to do two things. Number one, you have to know the sport. He certainly knows the sport. I don't know if there's anybody out there right now that can give the perspectives that Bernard Hopkins can give. That you got to give him credit for. But here's the other thing you have to do.
Give him credit.
Yeah. Well, no. But here's the other thing you have to do that I don't give him credit for. You have to know how to speak. This is a guy I don't know what language he speaks. And when he's on HBO, he sounds ridiculous. He sounds almost as ridiculous as I do when I'm trying to pronounce a name. I mean, come on. It's pretty funny, but hopefully, it's the end of his career in inside the ring. So anyway.
Billy, and what I meant by all that, I know he does all these things. I know he's a promoter. I know all these things are already in his quiver. But what I'm saying is now, if he's not going to be in the ring training or being active, he can get behind the scenes and develop a skill to see if this is really what he wants to now push himself and test himself. This guy always tests himself. Let him test himself and let him push himself to become proficient and efficient in one of those fields. And whether it's commentary or as a boxing analyst, he could choose one and see if he could develop it, rise to that occasion and push himself, if he is focusing on it solely as if he was focusing on a world title belt.
Yeah, well, no.
Can't count him out like the other night.
No. Well, I mean, I don't know. I all in all, I give Joe Smith Jr. a lot of credit for beating B-Hop, even at 52.
Me too.
Because B-Hop, in my opinion, like I predicted, I thought B-Hop would confuse him, would basically hang on, aggravate him and steal the show, and he didn't do it. And Joe Smith, just like Harold Letterman said, he's a power puncher. That's all he's got, and he showed that on Saturday night. Great performance by Smith, and we'll see where it goes from there. It's a shame about the Povetkin situation. I do think, providing he wasn't cheating, I do think that he would have made a good fight with Deontay Wilder. But how many chances does he get? So he's out of the picture. It's going to be interesting to see what slug Deontay Wilder's team digs up for him next. As far as the heavyweight division, I still believe it's all about Anthony Joshua, and we'll see what happens with that. What else, Sal? You got any final thoughts?
No, like I said, I'm going to think about this fight again just a little bit, and I give Joe Smith, Jr. all the credit in the world, and I think he's got some big fights ahead of him. He's just got to learn a little bit. I want to see him continue to do good. I mean, really, I think he's going to be good for boxing if he can keep on top. And Bernard, you know what? It was hard to watch the fight because I wanted to pull for Bernard, and I kept waiting him to make that turn to come up and big, and he had some moments and glimpses of what he was going to do or plan to do. Even Max Kellerman was trying to say, hey, he's going to turn it on, or he's maybe doing this, and he just couldn't turn that corner. He just couldn't do it. And you know what? I thought if the fight lasted in the late rounds, maybe something would have happened. But I don't think he had the power to knock out Joe Smith, and B, the endurance to sustain the punishment that he was taking. And that's why I fell apart from him real fast in that last round.
Yeah. Listening to the commentating sometimes doesn't put it in a true perspective, that's for sure.
No, it doesn't. It does not. And I agree with you 100% there.
Yeah, it's a shame. But anyway, we'll have to wait and get Dax's thoughts on the Triple G Daniel Jacobs fight later this week. As a matter of fact, we're only going to be back one more time this week, Sal. We're going to be back on Wednesday, and then we'll be back on January 2nd with our new format with some other changes going on. I'm looking forward to it. What about you?
Yeah, me too. I mean, you and I discussed some things here, and I'm excited about it. As soon as you want to reveal it, we'll let that unveiling take place. But yeah, I'm excited about it, Bill. I think it's going to be some big things, and you and I have got some good ideas of what we can also have you bring to the table and put it out there, pal.
Yeah, well, we're going to unveil it on January 2nd. The first Monday that we come back, we will be talking about what to expect. I also want to mention to all the Billy C challengers out there that have been doing the Billy C Challenge, we are going to post December's winner and the year-end winner after this month. So I'm purposely not putting any of the updates on the website. So it's a very close race for December and for the year-end. So it's totally open right now. And whether we move on with the challenge or not is still up in the air. So anyway, how about what took place on this day, December 19th, in boxing history, Sal? On this day in 1981, Dwight Braxton. Now, you remember who that is, right?
I remember Dwight Braxton. Wow.
Well, Dwight Braxton knocks out Matthew Saad Muhammad in the 10th round to win the WBC World Light Heavyweight title, and that took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey. On this day in 1997, Thulain Malinga wins a 12-round decision over Robin Reed to regain the WBC World Super Middleweight title. It took place in London. On this day in 1995, Shinjay Takahara wins a 12-round decision over Jorge Castro to win the WBA World Middleweight title. It took place in Tokyo. On this day in 1941, Sammy Angot wins a 15-round decision over Lou Jenkins to unify the World Lightweight title, and that took place in New York City. On this day in 1924, Cannonball Martin wins a 15-round decision over Abe Goldstein to win the World Bantamweight title. It took place in New York City. On this day in 1927, Frenchie Bellinger wins a 12-round decision. I can't even read my own writing. Wins a 12-round decision over Ernie Jarvis to win the vacant NBA World Flyweight title. It took place in Toronto. And on this day, December 19th, in 1913, Jack Johnson and Battling Jim Johnson, the Battle of the Johnsons, fight to a 10-round draw in Paris. Johnson retains his world heavyweight title on this day in 1913. Hey, Sal, that concludes our show for today. I'm looking forward to our last show of the year, which is on Wednesday. So we'll try and cram a bunch of stuff in on Wednesday. We are scheduled to do a final blast. We're also scheduled to have Larry Hazard come on. So we got a lot of stuff to close out the year. Then you and I have to hit the books and do some behind-the-scenes stuff and get ready to kick off 2017. 2017, can you believe it's going to be 2017?
2017. Hey, I got one question. Can I? It's for my own little trivia quiver here. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you'll be able to answer this because I think I have the answer. Now you mentioned Matthew Saad Muhammad, great light heavyweight, very, very, very strong. Now, when he started his pro boxing career, that was Matthew Franklin, wasn't it? Matthew Franklin. He changed his name, but he started out fighting. I think it was Matt Franklin. Let's research that for Wednesday.
Sounds good. But he did change his name, but so did Dwight Braxton.
So did Dwight Braxton, exactly. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
So, you know, people can
wait till I come back. I'm going to change my name.
Well, I tell you what. Why don't we send it up to the listeners? You send us the email who Matthew Saad Muhammad was prior to him changing his name.
I think it was Matt Franklin. But
are you going to give well, let's get the right answers from the listeners.
Yes.
They can drop me an email, Billy at Talkin' Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. And don't forget, if you have any thoughts or ideas for 2017 for this show, make sure you drop us an email because we're totally open for suggestion. But anyway, make sure you tune in Wednesday morning right here. Same bat time. Same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.